Greetings viewers, welcome to Merculum Gaming, and welcome back to a new series that I'm doing on YouTube that I'm going to call Scary Reactions. So, a lot of people are doing this on YouTube now. They're reacting to scary animated stories, and that's what I decided maybe I could do something like that. So this is episode 1 of my new series called Scary Reactions, where basically it's going to be me, us, gathering as a big community and just chilling back and reacting to some scary animations. Again, I'm going to just put a little disclaimer at the beginning of the video. Since it is titled Scary Reactions, there's probably going to be obviously scary stuff. So if you are sensitive to scary stuff, just click off the video. Again, I will try to edit out stuff that are too much. Any graphic things, any curse words, gone. Poof. Like magic. So let's go ahead and get into the first video. Okay, so this first video is called My Almost Kidnapped Memory in the Winter, and is narrated by Nightmare Films, and it is by Wansi Entertainment. Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with Wansi Entertainment's animations before, so...
When I was 11 years old, I spent the night hanging out with my closest friend at the time. I left around...
Why do they always... Hold on, side note. Why do they always give the female characters like a male voice? Like this guy, I've heard this guy's voice before, but why do they always make this guy narrate the female stories? He has the deepest voice.
He was about 15 to 20 minute walk away from my house. It was the month of December, so it was icy and dark outside. While I was walking down the long sidewalk, I had to make a turn halfway. Across the turn down the sidewalk, I noticed a man way further down. He was alone at the moment. 10 seconds later, a 4-door car drove up to him. It was a long street till my turn, so I watched him talk to whoever it was in the car. It sped off, and he just stopped, watching me as I walked. As I kept walking, all I heard was, "Hey you, come here, stop, hey you." So I freaked out. I started walking faster.
Kids, if you're walking down the street and you just mind your own business walking home from your friend's house and you see... Hold on. And you see this creepy old 50s looking stranger just like looking all shady, like talking to a man in a car, and then all of a sudden he looks at you and says, "Hey you, come here." Book it. That's what I would do.
I started walking faster and then noticed he started running toward me. I started running for my life.
Book it.
Since the ground was covered in snow and ice, all I literally thought was, "Please, God, don't let me slip." I was crying, and I was running. Yeah. He caught up extremely fast. I kept looking back and noticed the car slowly driving behind him. As I ran, I felt his arm reach out and try to grab the hood of my sweatshirt. By God's grace, his hand slipped, and I ran a block trying to find the house with the lights on. I finally found one, and banged.
And he didn't follow you? I mean, that's good, but seriously, he wouldn't follow you before you got to the house?
This older couple finally answered, and I ran inside explaining what happened. The husband then went outside to try to find him. When he went out, he saw the man standing at the end of the street staring at him. Then he ran off. My mom called the police and pulled me out of school for 4 days afterward. And this guy was never found. For a while after, I would buy flowers in the car and leave it on the couple's step.
What good scenario could there be found?
God only knows what would have happened if he got me and dragged me to the car.
What? What the? Really, Wansi? You gonna do me like that? Really, Wansi Entertainment? Okay, and this video is called Creepy Lemonade Selling Stories. I remember helping my friend across the street. I remember helping my friend across the street with the lemonade stand, and I'm assuming that this is gonna be like some guy who's walking up to the lemonade stand and he's acting all shady. I'm assuming, so let's go ahead and watch this. That last one though.
My name
Seriously,
is Ronald,
Wancy?
and I'm 19 years old.
Hey Ronald.
When this happened,
Ronald
I was
Weasley?
9. I grew up in a very small town in Montana, and during the summer, my brother and I would sometimes sell lemonade by the side of the road. We didn't
Ronald
make a
and
lot of
Percy
money, but
Weasley?
we did have fun selling the lemonade to people who were passing by. One hot afternoon, my brother and I were standing at our lemonade stand when we noticed an old
You were
rusty
laughing.
car pass by us 2 or 3 times. At the time, it struck me as a little creepy. Eventually,
Wait, hold on. You're telling me that the same car passed by you twice? Yeah, that should immediately raise some red flags.
the car slowed down and stopped right in front of the stand. There was a woman in the passenger seat, and as she rolled her window down, I saw she was really skinny with gray hair that was stained a sickly yellow hue. She was smiling at us, but her face didn't look normal. I couldn't see the man who was driving very well because he never looked at me and just stared
Go
straight ahead.
inside.
Both of them seemed very odd, and their
Inside.
clothes were...
Like, I am probably smarter than any other horror movie character that I would automatically run the other way. My fight or flight reaction response comes way sooner than any normal person. Like, I'm smart enough to know danger more than other people. I'm not saying that other people are stupid, but I'm just saying I have enough paranoia in me to the point where I just run at everything. And that sometimes works in my favor.
old and dirty. "You boys out here selling lemonade all by yourselves?" croaked the woman. "Yeah, my
Red
mom
flag.
lets us," I replied. "Is your mom home?" she asked. "Yeah, she's in the house," I said.
That
The woman
comment,
turned
is your
and
mom
looked
home?
at the
That,
man who was driving. He nodded, still staring. The woman turned back to me and said, "Okay, I'll have a lemonade." "That'll be 25 cents, I said as I poured her a glass. She rummaged around in her purse and I could hear coins clinking. Then she pulled out a $5 bill and held it out to me.
another red flag that you should always, be prepared for whenever you're talking to a creepy stranger. Overpaying. That is another sign that they're creepy and probably planning to kidnap you and or kill you, is if they are overpaying. That's another key thing. If you're selling something and they overpay you like way 10 times more than they should be paying you, red flag immediately. Keep that in
A
mind.
chill went down my spine.
Not that I have experiences
Why
with
was
it,
she
but I've heard
handing me
it.
a $5 bill if she had coins in her purse? Something just didn't feel right.
Yes, she's
I
a
don't have any
kidnapper.
change, I lied. "You can keep the change," she croaked. "Just come and take it." I was struggling with myself. You know, $5 is a lot of money to a kid.
Inside.
I walked up to the car
No.
and reached out to take the $5 from her hand.
No.
As
No.
soon as my fingers touched it, the woman suddenly grabbed me by the wrist and began pulling me into the car. I screamed my lungs out.
Scream,
My brother ran to the house
kick,
yelling for help.
punch,
The man floored the
bite,
accelerator,
anything.
and the car lurched forward.
While he's
I lost
outside
all
the
my
car?
might and managed to wrench myself free from her grasp. The car stopped and the man got out, but I was already running for my life. Then my mother rushed out, and I turned just in time to see the rusty old car speeding away.
Yeah, you
Told my
better
mom what
run.
had happened, and she called the police. When my brother and I calmed down and went back to the lemonade stand, there was a $5 bill lying on the ground. We packed up the lemonade stand and put it away for good.
And you kept the
I never
$5
had a
bill.
lemonade stand after that cruel incident.
You know, if she
Nobody
dropped
could
it,
ever
you gotta
feel the
keep it.
pounding of my chest when that woman tried pulling me. I just thank my great God that I'm fine.
I see, Awansi. This is one that caught my eye. It's called True Scary Story of Sam's Club. I don't know what this is about, but it caught my eye, so I'm going to react to this. Narrated by Nightmare Films.
My name
otherwise
is Kate.
known as
I'm
Deep
22
Voice
years
Guy.
old.
Kate? Deep Voice Guy? Seriously, why do you give the females the deepest voice actor?
And about 3 years ago, I got a job working at Sam's Club.
I've never heard of it.
Mimi, who worked there before me, was the one who suggested that I apply there.
I've never heard of
Her
Sam's
job
Club.
was to work on the cash register. Mine was to stock shelves
Is it a store?
and keep certain areas tidy. One
Guys,
day,
comment down
a young man
what Sam's
entered the
Club
store
is.
and started to make conversation with me. I would say he was around 25 years old. After some friendly chit-chat, he eventually said that I looked like a model, and he has contacts within the modeling agency.
Red flag.
Honestly, I
Paranoia,
didn't
guys. You
believe
gotta
a
have it
word
to
he
stay
said.
safe.
He was nice, but I wasn't about to fall for this. After
Fall for
many
what?
attempts of trying to persuade me to go with him to meet somewhere, to meet some contacts, he eventually gave up. He didn't leave the store, however, because about 5 minutes later I noticed him talking to Mimi as she was working on the cash register. I was hoping she wouldn't fall for it, but unfortunately she did.
She did, yep.
At the end of our shift, we spoke about what the guy had said, and Mimi really believed that the guy could get her modeling gigs. I told her not to meet him, and she said she wouldn't. About a
She's
week later,
lying.
she didn't turn up to work and wasn't answering calls or texts. In fact, she kind of went missing. It was about a week until I finally heard from her. She was in a hospital. Mimi had met up with the guy from the store. She wouldn't say what happened in detail, but what she did tell me was disturbing enough. She met up with the guy from the store in a very old rundown apartment. There were two very large men, one skinny old guy. She was attacked. Two men drugged her, and she fell unconscious. And when she woke up, she was in extreme pain. The men she met up with knocked her out and took all of her belongings. The police said that she was lucky. I'm sorry that Mimi had to go through all of that, but thankfully she wasn't killed. But I'm glad it wasn't me that got lured into the man's sick money.
You know what? I'm sorry that this happened to you, but I'm just glad that it wasn't me. You know, it's okay. I really should make fun of that because it says true story. I really should make fun of that. Since it's getting in the Christmassy season, I'm thinking about reacting to this little animation right here, a creepy Christmas time story animated, and this is by Llama Arts. And Llama Arts, woo, you know this guy has some experience animating.
It was November of 2006. I was a 16-year-old kid living in the town of Altoona, Iowa.
I like the narrator who narrates for Llama
I had
Arts.
to work the early shift at McDonald's. As I slept, I had a dream that I was running through downtown Des Moines, but I wasn't on a job. I was running from something. As I ran around the corner of a building, I came face to face with my pursuer. A tall man wearing a trench coat and a top hat stood in front of me. The only thing visible of his face was his eyes. They were abnormally large with black pupils, and it looked at me as if it wanted something. After what felt like hours, he reached out his bony hand, as if he wanted me to go with him. I woke up violently from my dream, and after catching my breath, I peered around my room to see if I was safe.
You are safe.
As I stood up from my bed,
because it's just a nightmare.
I could see my breath. Feeling confused, I checked my window. It was latched shut. I then walked over and checked my vent. I could still feel warm air coming from it. As I sat back down on my bed, I tried to figure out what exactly was going on. That's when the figure from my dream appeared at the foot of my bed. I scrambled back to my headboard.
No.
What do you want?
I asked, trying to hide the shakiness in my voice. with the same bony finger.
No.
It pointed at me. Growing up in a religious home, I believed what I was looking at was a demon. I told the creature to leave. It just waved its finger at me, and with a low voice, it spoke to me.
Never leave. Always here.
The creature then screamed loudly and disappeared. A feeling of nausea came
Horrifying.
over me, and I vomited on my floor. The last thing I remember was cleaning myself up and waking up to my alarm. It's been about a month since I had seen the top hat wearing man in my bedroom. The Christmas season was in full effect. My parents weren't home because they got invited to some kind of event. So it was only
What does
me
the
and my
top hat
three
man have to do with
sisters at
Christmas?
home. I had to wake up early in the morning for work, so I decided to go to sleep. I rested my head on my pillow and closed my eyes. Not even 30 seconds passed until my sisters burst into my room and started singing obnoxious songs. This of course made me very angry, but I thought if I ignored them that they would leave me alone. This was not the case.
Little siblings,
As I
yes.
pulled the blankets over my head, I started to feel the same cold feeling that I had in November. As the obnoxious singing subsided, I lowered the blanket below my eyes and saw the man standing in the corner of my room.
Of course.
In one swift motion, he charged towards me, and I blacked out. When I
Gosh.
finally came to, I found that my sisters had locked themselves inside the bathroom. As I knocked on the door, they told me to go away. I asked them what happened, and all they could say was Mom and Dad were on their way home.
Why are
I
you
looked
bleeding?
down and saw that my hand was slightly bloody. Holes were in the bathroom door, and a broom was sticking out of the wall. I then walked into the living room and found that there were knives stuck into the wall as well.
What?
The same wave of nausea passed over me, just like in November, and I threw up again. As I was cleaning up, my parents walked through the door. My father immediately walked over to me and gave me a good beating. Then he sent me to my room.
What
I went to
happened?
bed crying. Not from the beating. I was crying because of the confusion. I had no idea what was going on. The next morning, my sisters reluctantly sat next to me and told me what had happened. They said I got angry and chased them down and tried to hurt them. They said my eyes were red to the point where they thought I was bleeding from them. They said
Oh,
I sounded like a different person.
gosh.
In 2011, that was the last time I saw the top hat wearing man. I just moved into a new apartment, and after a long, stressful day of unpacking, I took a shower and got ready for bed. As I started to drift off, I could feel that cold feeling again. I lifted my head and saw the man standing in front of me. The man's eyes were red now. With a low voice, just like on that November night, it looked at me and said,
Never leave. Always here.
So you got possessed by a demon. Cool story, bro. So we're going to react to one more thing by Llama Arts, and that's called Creepy Neighbor Horror Story. Ooh, cool, it turns blue.
This happened in 2009. We would fly from our home state
So 10 years ago.
California to Minnesota to visit my father's family for the summer. I've always enjoyed it there because of the nature and peaceful atmosphere. My father's family lived far from the nearest
I
town.
like
We
nature.
only had two
Plays video
neighbors.
games.
My only friend there was a girl who lived next door. Let's call her Morgan. She's around.
Let's call her Morgan. Why is it that everybody who tells these horror stories can never remember the names of other people? Either that or they just purposely not tell the names for privacy reasons, which makes sense. I never really thought of that. Never mind.
From my age, and me, my sister, and her would always play from sunrise to sunset. One day at around 4 p.m., we were outside playing badminton. My sister hit the birdie too hard, and it landed in the next door neighbor's yard. Morgan said she had more inside her house and went to get them. I felt uncomfortable leaving it there, so I told my sister I'll go get it myself. She told me not to do it and just wait for Morgan. While my sister
Yeah,
was
you
fixing
never
that,
cross.
I decided to run and get it real quick. As I was about to enter
You
the door,
never
my
go in
sister
neighbor's
grabbed me
house.
from behind and began telling me how much of a bad idea it was. That's when an old man came out from behind the house. He picked up the birdie and said,
Is this yours?
I said yes and asked if I could have it back. He said he had his grandchildren's old toys upstairs and asked if we wanted to have them.
Book it. Book it. Book it.
Me and my sister were very young at the time, and we thought as he lived so close and he looked like a typical sweet grandfather, what's the worst that could happen? So we agreed and entered through the back door. The first thing I noticed was the stench. It smelled of damp and rotting food. I shrugged it off
Blood?
at the time since he was old. Maybe
Rotting
he was
corpses?
alone. We heard more.
Is that what it smelled
our
like?
names, and we politely told the old man that we had to go. Maybe we'd return tomorrow. Morgan saw us through the window and immediately asked what we were doing there. I answered, "The sweet old man," and she cut me off and said that the house was abandoned since she moved there. I thought she was just playing around with me and told her to cut it out. She had a blank expression, and that's when I knew that she was serious. We never told anyone because we didn't want to cause any trouble. But now that I'm older, I wonder if it was some ghost or creepy old man luring kids into that house. The house got demolished recently, which is why I wanted to share this story.
That's it? Wait. Wait. That's it? Okay, so the last video we're gonna react to is by Snarled, and I like Snarled. I also watched some of her animations. We're gonna watch one animation by her, and it is called The Djinn of the Lake, Bengali Scary Storytime. Now, here's the thing. I have not watched Snarled in a while, and I am familiar with her, with the host of Snarled, or the narrator, or the person who usually stands in front of the camera and tells a story, goes by the name of Sapphire. This is not Sapphire. I don't know who this is. I don't know if she's a friend of Sapphire, or she's helping. She recently joined the Snarled team and is helping Sapphire animate these. I don't know who she is, but I'm assuming that she's a new narrator, and she recently joined Snarled, because I haven't seen her before, but hopefully she's as good of a narrator as Sapphire. Hello, whatever your name is. Okay, let's go ahead and start this animation. The Djinn of the Lake.
Did you know that these video episodes tell just one of the fan-submitted stories that we adapt for our podcast each week? The chills and thrills continue on the Something Scary podcast. Hear more for free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to
Sponsorship.
podcasts.
Hey, I'm Markia. Want to hear some?
Markia, okay. So I'm assuming either she's taken over Snarled for Sapphire, or she's helping Sapphire. Okay.
Scary?
Hi, Markia. What happened to Sapphire?
The Forbidden Lake.
Inspired by
Fishing
Anonymous.
is a pastoral pastime enjoyed by many people all around the world. However, you should still be careful which lake you decide to cast your net in. In some places, such as Bangladesh, dangerous jinn guard the water, like in this next story.
What's a djinn?
Inspired by a submission from an anonymous viewer.
What's a djinn?
It's best to wait when the tide lowers on the water of a lake. That's when fish are easier to spot on the surface. The water becomes muddy with scattered holes of air, and then you strike. Rahul, my aunt's fishing otter, looked at me curiously when I splashed him. My aunt shouted at me to get away from the edge of the lake on the way to her home. After graduation, I'd been sent by my parents to visit her in Bangladesh. The lake was sacred, and no one in the neighborhood was allowed near it. Didn't matter if it was closer everyone had to work together and trek to another lake for traditional community fishing. Rahul's
What's so
whiskers
secret
suddenly
about that?
perked up, and he looked across the water. In the distance, two black eyes were fixed right on me. My aunt picked up
Book
my neck.
it. You know what I'm gonna say, guys? 2 words. Book it.
We mustn't anger the jinn. Confused, I asked her what she meant.
What is a
Carrying
jinn?
Rahul, she led us home, warning me about the fickle entities known as jinns. Some say they're angels, and others think they're demons. The next day,
What if they're both?
after unsuccessfully fishing with the others, I didn't want to return to my aunt's empty-handed. One of the fishermen I accompanied, Agus, encouraged me to ignore my aunt's advice. In the real world, you do whatever it takes to put food on the table, he said. We agreed to meet late at night by the water of the sea.
And that's what he said before his
Later,
head
as
was...
Rahul and I waited for him.
I'm not gonna
suddenly
finish that because it's too
teemed with
dark.
life. Rahul was hesitant to fish and curled up to rest, but without his help, I quickly had a small bounty of snakehead fish. It was quiet until I heard a splash and saw her. A beautiful woman wearing a sari caked with mud. She sat with her woven basket by the water. Rahul was awakened and sniffed the air. Smiling, she waved me over to her. Whining, Rahul retreated closer to me. Nodding at her, I decided the quickest way to get to her side was through the lake. It was shallow enough to stand in, and I effortlessly carried my basket over my shoulders to impress her. Getting closer, I felt something slither by my feet like tentacles. I had stepped into a nest of swamp eels. I struggled to find my footing. They rose to the surface, a swarm of tendrils on the water, and wrapped themselves up my body to get around my neck. I shouted at the woman whose eyes darkened and her smile twisted into a sneer. Sinking lower,
You ignored my 2
I dropped
words.
my basket. It was the jinn. Her changed face leaned closer to mine. There were oozing gills on her neck. I screamed as her jaw, filled with yellow serrated teeth, unhinged, and she spat mud into my eyes that burned like acid. Blinded, I choked on muddy water. I could hear Rahul making loud noises until I was suddenly hoisted up. Wiping my eyes, I realized it was Agus with his net, and he helped me get out of the vines I was caught in. He'd heard Rahul calling out and found me. I must have slipped, I said, thanking him. Picking up my basket to show him what I caught, I had tossed a fish to Rahul. The otter quickly nudged it with his nose back into the water. Agus laughed. He got his reward meal earlier from being such a skillful fisherman. Let's see if you've got what it takes. That night, we fished discreetly and snuck home late with our filled baskets, excited to share with our families. The next morning,
Okay, it's
I
not over. I was
awakened
about to say,
by
like...
a foul stench. When I got outside, I realized
Why did that scare me? Why did that scare me?
to share with our families. The next morning, I was awakened by a foul stench. When I got outside, I realized the house was circled by dead fish, and our neighbor surrounded a body being carried away. Out of his mouth hung a dead eel. It was Agus. Gagging, I fell to my knees and choked on something lodged in my throat. My aunt gasped as I pulled a fleshy black tail from between my lips. The jinn had allowed me to live, but not without one final punishment. Coughing, I pulled eel after eel out of my mouth. To this day, I still wake up clutching my throat from the memory.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Markia. I don't want to admit this, but you actually did a better job at narrating and emphasizing details better than Sapphire. So that was my first episode of Scary Reactions. Reacted to 3 episodes of Wansi Entertainment, 2 episodes of Llama Arts, and 1 video by Snarled. That's probably going to be like most of my reactions, most of my scary reactions. So if you like this series, if you like me reacting to scary stuff, and you want me to do more, then make sure you hit that like button, and And if it gets at least 10 likes, I will make another video of this series. What am I saying? I'll probably make another video just because I want to. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, for my 30 subscriber special, it's gonna be a fan-made song. Hope you're looking forward to that. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, 10 likes, please, and farewell.